over 30 years, Point of Grace has shared music, faith, and friendship with listeners across the country. Now Denise, Lee, and Shelley are inviting you into their circle. Welcome to Circle of Friends, the podcast.
It's Point of Grace.
Each week they're talking real life, current events, stories of true friendship, wisdom from God's Word, and all their favorite things. If you're looking for a little company, a few laughs, and a lot of Jesus to hold it together, Circle of Friends, the podcast is waiting for you. Subscribe now wherever you listen or watch podcasts, and circle up with Point of Grace.
One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake it off with Mert and Lucas. Live starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
Hey, Alex, what's that one called?
Good evening, Lucas. It's called I Hate You by Contraya.
Shame on you. Why would you hate me? Well, there's
I can never hate you, Lucas.
Oh, but there's a lot of hate going on in Minnesota. That's for sure, Alex. It's been a hotbed of utter chaos. And I wanted to talk about something that happened mid-January that really troubled me. And I wanted to get your reactions to it. Of course, there's a lot going on in Minnesota that's troublesome. And we don't have time to address them all, unfortunately. But I wanted to focus on a particular incident because it simmered.
Let's go.
On Sunday, January 18th, 2026, worshipers at City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota, gathered for their regular Sunday service. The congregation, led by Pastor David Easterwood, had no reason to expect that their worship would be interrupted by a group of approximately 20 anti-ICE activists. Led by a local activist, the protesters entered the sanctuary mid-service. They began chanting, "ICE out of Minnesota, no more deportations," and they directly confronted the pastor. The group accused him of simultaneously serving as a local field office director for ICE, which of course is disputed, but in any event, the disruption lasted about 15 minutes. Protesters shouted over the sermon, used bullhorns inside the sanctuary, and forced the service to end early as families with children fled in distress. Now, it just so happens that former CNN anchor Don Lemon was in the sanctuary, in the church, attending as a guest, and he just so happened to be able to live stream much of what was going on his YouTube channel and provided real-time commentary and interviews with the protesters and congregants. Within hours, that incident went viral. Now, conservative media labeled it an assault on religious freedom. Faith leaders from across denominations condemned the intrusion. The Department of Justice, under Pam Bondi, announced that it was investigating into possible violations of federal law. The next day, on January 19th, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison appeared on Don Lemon's YouTube program. Ready for this? And his remarks were clear. This is what he said, "This is First Amendment activity. It's freedom of expression. None of us are immune from the voice of the public. It's just something you got to live with." Now, how heartless is that? And to make matters worse, he dismissed the applicability of federal law, something called the FACE Act, arguing, here's the quote, ready? "The FACE Act is about protecting access to reproductive health services. Applying it here would be a wild stretch." These are his words, "This is not the same thing." Now remember that comment, Ellison went further, framing the protests as legitimate response to Trump's ICE operation. He criticized ICE as cruel, fear-inducing, and noticed that his office had already filed a lawsuit. Ellison's defense was consistent, his broader progressive record, he's a staunch advocate for immigrant rights, sanctuary policies, and opposition to aggressive federal immigration enforcement. But what about concern for the church and the churchgoers? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. You okay with that, Mert?
Well, in my personal life, I don't really care about this stuff because I'm pretty removed from the emotions that a lot of people, get themselves worked up into. So when it comes to this situation, my perspective is this: if Don Lemon was really with the movement, he should have remained in jail. I don't know if the other people who got out or not. I don't know if they're still arrested. But if he really wanted to make a statement, you stay in jail and you let everybody know, I refuse to come out until I get my day in court or until ICE leaves Minnesota, and you make a strong stance. You get a moment. That would be a moment. Don Lemon took a stand for ICE, for immigrants, or against ICE and for immigrants. But Don Lemon got right out, and it's kind of like he separated himself from the other side. If you're there as just a journalist, well, what do you really support? Are you just covering a story, or do you support what those activists, those protesters were protesting? See, I can look at it that way. If Don Lemon is a supporter of those protesters, then it's in my judgment that he was there to aid the protesters. But if he's just a innocent bystander who happened to see an event going down and he just went in there and, hey, I didn't know this was going to happen, but I'm a journalist and I'm just going to cover it unbiased, that'd be a different thing. But I don't think that's what took place.
No, I don't think so either.
I think Don Lemon supports the protesters. He doesn't agree with ICE being down there. So he decided to latch on to the movement, and he's distancing himself from going through the real trials and tribulations by taking this stance. He should have remained in jail, and this would have been a lot more impactful.
Well,
but the fact that he's out...
I would have liked him to have remained in jail too, because I think he was part of this whole conspiracy. You know what? Even he wasn't there by accident, Mert. According to what I'm reading in the media reports, he was aware that this was planned, and he arranged it so that he could be there with a producer. He had a producer with him. He was ready for a show.
I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that, because that's a very important thing to remember in this situation. If he knew this was going to take place,
yep, he
and
did.
And it's on record that he agrees with this movement, not in terms of saying that he supports this exact movement, but we have it on record of him going against ICE, saying it's bad, etc. It's known what Don Lemon feels. So him participating in this and trying to use the guise of being a journalist, it's not something that, even if I don't agree with him being arrested, is something that I just look past, because, like I said earlier, I'm taking my emotions out of this situation and I'm looking at it, straight down the line, because I could see a bunch of YouTubers, a bunch of amateur journalists who might support some extreme movements that are against jihadists, and they might go into a mosque and say these are jihadists or whatever. They might come up with all kind of wacky theories.
And good luck with that.
But that's the point. They never do that. They don't ever go into mosques. That's the point.
And that's why I'm saying, listen to my point. Don Lemon gets away with this. It allows other groups to say, okay, if Don Lemon can get away with it, then we can get away with it too. And guess what we're going to say? We were just protesting. Because
that's the reason people go to jail, Mert. One of the reasons, deterrence, to discourage other people from doing the same thing. And what Don Lemon did, he enabled it in some way. Okay, Mert? Whether he agrees with the movement or not doesn't even matter. He knew it was going to happen.
Well, I disagree with the fact that he enabled it. No, listen. I disagree with the fact that he enabled
what do you mean?
Took place.
He put them on his YouTube channel. He gave them 15 minutes of glory. He made them out to be
careful.
heroes.
You got to be
disgraceful.
careful.
That's
you got to be careful. You got to be careful, and I don't care how much you shout. You got to be careful with what words you use, because enabling something that was going to already take place is different than amplifying the attention. Now, he could have amplified something that was already in the works, but I don't think they said, well, unless Don Lemon comes out and says that we can do this, then we're not going to do it. I don't think Don Lemon was in control.
Don Lemon, can I tell you something?
That don't make sense.
That don't make sense. Can I tell you something? It does make sense. If somebody called me and said, we're going to protest the church, do you want to cover it? I would say, no, it's not a good idea to disrupt a ceremony, a service. And by the way, it's a possible violation of federal law. I can't be part of it. Do you know what he did? He participated in it. He enabled.
You're not making sense, though.
Well, you're not making sense, Mert.
No, you're not. Let me tell you. Let me tell you why you're not making sense. No, I hear you very clearly, because I'm very sharp, and you're not making sense, because that has nothing to do with the protest actually taking place. Don Lemon is not their leader. He just showed up for an opportunity to join something that was already in progress.
Then you know what he should have done as a good citizen? Mert, since you're so crystal clear, he should have called the police or to inform the church so that they would have been ready for it. Okay? You just don't be silent and then participate and then happen to have your camera ready to roll to the detriment of participants, the congregants in a church. It's disgraceful, and I stand by my word. He enabled it. He should have stopped it. He should have informed authorities. At a minimum, he should have informed the churchgoers there's going to be a protest. You should be ready for it. He did none of those things, and that is disgraceful in my view.
Well, I want the world to know this is an example of how you turn somebody who's just regular old Don Lemon into a monster. Because if you think that Don Lemon is this powerful mastermind who can direct people and move chess pieces, he doesn't know anything about what's going on in Minnesota. Somebody alerted him to this, and he showed up. That's all he could do was show up. He did not have the capabilities of stopping.
He showed up, and he didn't go to any of the congregants. He didn't go to the pastor and say, "Pastor, I have information that a protest is going to happen here." Nothing. He was silent. As far as he's complicit, and he should go to jail. And they should throw away the key. The man is a disgrace, as far as I'm concerned. That's not the way.
Well, this is where you strengthen his case that he's just a journalist. If he's just a journalist, why would he do any of that? If he was just going to cover the event,
I said he's not a journalist. He's not. He's a fraud, in my humble opinion.
You give him an out when you say stuff like this, because he can sit back and say, well, I didn't know this was going to be some illegal event. I was just going to cover. Thought they was going to protest around the church or protest the individual. I didn't know they was going to storm the church and go inside. But as a journalist, he felt like he did his job. That's what I would say if I was in his shoes, and you just opened the door for that to become a discussion.
Yeah, I don't think so. Go ahead. But listen, do you know what the problem is also, Mert? This Ellison guy, the Attorney General, he has made inconsistent statements. And Alex, I'm going to get you to chime in on this too. Back in 2015, while he was serving in Congress, Ellison, along with another congressman, sent a letter to the Obama administration's Department of Justice urging an investigation because there were protesters who gathered outside an Islamic community center. The protesters, many of them had firearms, I will say that, stood on public sidewalks across the street from the mosque during Friday prayers. No one entered the building, no service was interrupted, no congregants were physically blocked from entering. Yet, Ellison, the AG of Minnesota, argued that their mere presence constituted intimidation and a violation of religious rights. How do you like that, Mert? In a letter that this hypocrite wrote, these demonstrators argue that they are exercising their First Amendment rights. What they fail to understand is that the First Amendment rights are not absolute. They are limited to protect the safety and rights of others. A complete switch when it comes to a mosque, Mert. He specifically said in response to that incident, federal law, the FACE Act, which he said didn't apply earlier when he was on the Don Lemon show, should be applied to these people. How about that for hypocrisy? Mert,
Well,
it's not
my stance
one
is
standard. It's not one standard for Christians. It's not one standard for Muslims. It's not one standard for another race, creed, or religion. It's one standard for all. And this hypocrisy, this double standard, has to stop. I'm surprised that you're okay with it, Mert. You should be ashamed.
Well, I'm ashamed that you're not actually listening to what I'm saying. You're very emotional about this, and I understand, the tensions are high with this type of story. But it's my stance is very clear. I don't like when people try to act like they don't know what they're doing. If you know that you're about to disrupt this church proceeding, and it's a violation of the law,
yes, it is.
Don't try to act like you didn't know that. Let everybody know you're doing it in protest of what this individual was doing. You broke the law in protest of what was going on. If they would come out and just admit that they broke the law and stop trying to fight this and say this is some kind of constitutional fight or this is my freedom of speech, it's like, this is not freedom of speech, because the last thing I want is innocent church members being targeted by groups who don't agree with what you're worshiping or how you choose to worship.
Amen to that.
Amen to that is right.
My position is just admit it. Just go do the jail. That's why I'm saying if they would just admit that it was a crime, it would be a lot stronger, because people say, oh, they're protesting this for a reason. They knew they were breaking the law, but they felt so strongly about this that they decided to do it.
Mert, you're talking like Lemon is a man of principle. I think that we've already established that he is far from that. Okay, if he had any integrity, this is all my opinion, people. If he had any integrity, he would have warned churchgoers minimally. Okay, would have warned them.
You're hilarious.
He had his camera ready. You know why? Because he wanted to exploit the situation so he can get his 15 minutes or whatever, get some sponsors or get more views so he can make his YouTube dollars. I don't know what his motivation was, but it's shameful just the same.
You do know what his motivation was. This is why it's hilarious that you're saying that. He agreed with everything they were doing. Why would he go warn them? Hey, we're about to come protest.
Because
you don't even make sense. You don't make sense right now.
If he warned them, I'm here making sense. If he warned them, he wouldn't have his video. If he warned them, it would have been a completely different outcome. They would have been barred from entering.
You don't make sense.
And it wouldn't have been as interesting. The man is a hypocrite.
You don't make sense, because why would he do that? That would just mess up the statement they were trying to make, because he agrees with what they were doing.
They had no right to make that statement in a church, Mert. That's the point. They have no right to make that statement.
No, they broke the law, okay? But they were breaking the law because they felt like they had a message. So you need to understand that before you start talking about what is legally correct. Legally, you might have some ground to stand on, but when we talk about making a statement, Don Lemon supported what they were doing, so why would he warn them? You don't make any sense when you say he should have warned them. That don't even make sense. I'm going to warn people.
Make sense when
I'm going to warn the people
that he put a whole congregation in jeopardy. He disturbed an entire congregation for his YouTube glory.
Well,
Shame
hold on a
on
second.
Him.
Was he
You
in
don't
cahoots with them? Listen, was he in cahoots with them or not? Because if he was in
Hold on a
second. If he was in cahoots with them, maybe he has an understanding that it won't get violent. See, that's the part of this that you're not taking into account. You're assuming. See, you're not making sense. Either he's with them or he's not with them. Which one is it?
As far as I'm concerned, he was with them.
So if he's with them, then it's clear that he understood this is only going to go so far. So if that's the case, then it makes sense what he did.
You're making it up. You're the one that's not making any sense. You're in denial. The man should not have allowed.
You just said they're breaking the law. Now you're defending
he's
him.
all over
very
the
strange.
place. Yeah, he's very strange.
Listen, there's different laws that could be breaking. You can go in there and start slapping people around. That's a law, but they didn't break that law. You understand what I'm saying?
They did. They broke the FACE Act, which is interfering with disturbance of the peace.
Did you just hear what I said?
They violated a bunch of laws.
Did they hit anybody? Did they get violent?
They violated a bunch of laws.
Did they get violent? Did they get violent?
I'm
No.
going to get violent. Welcome to Shake It Off with Bert and Lucas Live.
Bring it on. I'll take you out.
We're honest. Oh, he's threatening me. He's threatening me on air. Call the police. Call the coppers. This is episode 82. Let's hear an amen. This is Lucas Ferrara. You heard from Bert Roberts. Oh, we've run out of time. We have to go to a commercial break. When we come back, we can have our great guest joining us, Blair Glaser. She's the author of This Incredible Longing. Okay, stay tuned. Take a breather. Go get that coffee. Don't touch that dial. We'll be back right after these messages.
Says it takes a special person.
I do feel sorry for the family of this guy. I feel sorry for the family of Renee Good. I feel sorry for anybody who gets killed. Doesn't have to be that way. But it takes a special kind of person to go up to a man who's wearing a bulletproof vest, has a long gun, to get in their face.
The Mike Gallagher Show. Weekdays at 10 on AM 970. The Answer.
The Tunnel to Towers Foundation honors America's heroes and their families when tragedy strikes. Heroes like Scott Abrams. For more than 3 decades, Scott served his community and country as a U.S. Marine, an NYPD detective, and a volunteer firefighter. While he was on his NYPD motorcycle, escorting the funeral procession of a 4-year-old child, his life changed in an instant. Scott was hit by a bus, crushing 4 vertebrae in his neck, shattering his leg, and leaving him partially paralyzed. Scott's recovery was grueling. But through unwavering love, strength, and perseverance, Scott, his wife Tara, and their son Joshua made it through unimaginable challenges. Tunnel to Towers honored Scott and his family with a mortgage-free smart home. Scott now has a home he can move freely in as he heals and raises his family with dignity. More heroes are waiting and in need of assistance. Donate $11 a month and consider amplifying your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org. That's T2T.org.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Fueled by passion.
Handoff, Starling curls on the middle of the lane, puts it in and one. Pitch it into Freeman, his shot front around it in.
We are upstate New York's team.
Pitch ahead, Starling, 3-ball, yes and one. Freeman on the breakout, splits 2 defenders, scores and one. Turn around 10-footer, good. With the shot clock down at 5. JJ does his thing.
Listen all season long on your home for Syracuse basketball.
On AM 970, The Answer.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and want to see what Salem Surround can do for you, Google Salem Surround New York. Remember to Google Salem Surround New York today.
Alex Marlowe wants the country to stay productive.
The algorithm is what we need to fear because it is what controls our minds, what controls our brains, and it controls our time. How much time do I have left? I don't know how much it is. But I'll tell you one thing, I don't want to spend it on TikTok. So I hope President Trump comes up with some way to make the algorithm a little bit more productive. Got to keep an eye on this. We need to do better as a country and as a civilization.
The Alex Marlowe Show, weekdays at noon, right before Scott Jennings at 1 on AM 970. The Answer.
What's right?
Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970. The Answer.
That's interesting, Alex. What's that one called?
All right, so we're listening to Waves of Longing by Ando Sick, S-I-K.
Waves of Longing. Perfect choice given our next guest. Blair Glaser is a writer, speaker, leadership consultant, and licensed psychotherapist who helps organizations build collaborative cultures and straighten their bottom lines across sectors, including finance, law, healthcare, entertainment, and nonprofits. She's the author of This Incredible Longing, her newest book exploring the emotional landscapes that shape connection, desire, and meaning. And Mert, we have a celebrity in our midst. She has led workshops at renowned retreat centers, including Women Writing to Change the World. After 6 years with V's, she was formerly Eve Ensler. Her V's nonprofit V-Day, a global movement to end violence against women and girls. She developed and facilitated the Vagina Monologues Workshop, a creative approach to sexual empowerment for women, and later collaborated with Jane Fonda on an empowerment program for teenage girls. Such great work. Glaser earned her BS in theater from Northwestern University, where she studied character and motivation, and that sparked her interest in human behavior. She went on to receive her master's in drama therapy from Vermont College and the Institute of Arts in Psychotherapy, where she later served as senior faculty. I'm almost done. As New York's licensed arts therapist from 1998 to 2022, she ultimately left clinical practice to work full-time with leaders and organizations. Today, Glaser lives with her husband and dog terror, Vanna White. I love that name, in Los Angeles. And we're going to be speaking with her today about her latest book, her memoir entitled This Incredible Longing, Finding Myself in a Near Cult Experience. That's coming out in mid-February. Enticing title. Welcome to the program, Blair.
Thank you so much, Lucas.
What a pleasure and honor with your work in theater, and you went from theater to becoming a therapist. What a transition. Do you miss the theater?
I know.
Do you miss it?
I don't. I mean, I love going to the theater, but I don't miss the theatrical life.
What about it, What about it? Do you miss the poverty, the hard work?
Exactly.
The rejection.
Exactly.
The rejection.
well, let me get this started because we're going to get into relationships.
The Mertnator. Watch the Mertnator, Blair.
Mert.
Because I have my theories on all of this stuff. So you got all this education, as Lucas listed in that very elaborate intro that he gave you. So what do you think about this? And I'll let you go anywhere you want to go with this.
Oh, he's wild. He's wild.
No, I'm not. Don't listen to that. I'm a nice guy. But I think...
You can't see me, but I'm rubbing my hands together.
Okay. Now, take this anywhere you want to. But I think the biggest issue with dating and relationships and all this stuff that we have going on today is that we still haven't figured out how to deal with women who are stronger than they ever been in history. And that dynamic is messing things up for a lot of people because we still have to reconcile the fact of, are men supposed to take care of women? But, everything's balanced out when it comes to paychecks and all this stuff. So it's like, what is a man's role for a woman? Do women still need men like they did years ago? So with all that, I think because we are dealing with stronger women today, it's making dating and love all that more and more complicated. What do you think about that?
I think 100%, Mert. I agree with you, but I'm going to talk about
thanks for coming on the program, Blair. Have a great night.
Wait, Lucas, I think you're going to be happy with the way I'm reframing this.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I'm going to say that it's less so much about women and men as the fact that the roles have changed and we haven't reestablished what they are.
Right.
So hang with me. So we had man as the head of the household and woman as the caretaker.
Right.
And that went well for some people for a long time. Not great for a lot of women who were quietly suffering. And finally, in the 60s especially, even though it started much earlier with the suffragette movement, women began to step into their authority, have different choices, and become, as you said, Mert, strong, and in some cases, perhaps more equipped than men who were just doing one thing, which was to make money and bring it home and sort of be a good father. Women had this reputation of being able to multitask in a different way. So hang with me for a second. So that has been upended, but we don't really have tools anymore to discuss roles in relationships. And I think that causes more problems than gender issues. Because now you can have a man that stays at home and takes care of the kids, and if he's okay with that, and that's being discussed and that's being negotiated, there's no problem. But it's really about being able to negotiate these roles in relationships. You know, we have same-sex relationships, so it can't always be about gender. Gender now is up for question in a lot of circles. So we need new tools to discuss how we're going to play roles in relationships.
Well, you know what I would add to what you're saying, and you can go back on this. I think on the fringes, with smart people, they would understand this. They would be able to have these discussions. But I'm talking about the average person who doesn't have too many options in terms of what they can do economically. They're pretty much set. They got a basic job. They're not going to be some star. They're pretty much where they're at. When you combine two people in them same shoes, now it becomes the main tool, the main weapon that we both have is how much money we can make. So we might not be able to have a discussion about who can do what because we both need to do everything. We both need to work. We both need to pick the kids up from practice on certain days. We both need to contribute so much because the paychecks really matter and not one of us can take off. We both need to be there doing everything. So that's what I mean by you strengthen the woman's role economically and her position in society. And this might sound sexist, but it kind of reduces the importance of what men used to be.
It's interesting that you're putting the onus on women for reducing what men are supposed to be.
That's Mert Blair. That's Mert's issue.
Well, I'm not. I knew who I was talking to, but I'm curious about that.
What are you
saying the options are, Mert? That women stop being as strong and powerful as they actually are?
Well, they have the choice. They have the choice now. You can be strong and be at home and be a mother and, but you can also be strong and, go to work and have to deal with these difficult conversations, these difficult emotions that women feel because you can be a strong CEO, powerful, rich woman, but you still have it in the back of your mind that you want this Prince Charming to come take care of you. So it's still, it's not as simple as, well, men should, become better men. It's women still want the same things that they wanted before, but they also want more. I think
you're generalizing. I don't think all women, because I speak to a lot of them, I don't think they all want the same thing. They don't all want to come home from, they don't all want some guy who makes more than them and is the man. What I'm really hearing is that women want men that can be in these kinds of conversations in the partnership where their ego is not so fragile that they can't engage in these conversations. That's what I'm hearing from women, Mert.
Amen. Tell them, Blair, tell them.
Well,
you pea-brain men aren't listening. You pea-brain men are stuck in the 50s. He's stuck in the Lever to Beaver episode, Blair.
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Mert, though, I have to say. Like, I've been listening to you guys, and I come down in different conversations that you have on different sides. So in this one, Mert and I are, like, a little bit at odds here.
Well, that's good. It makes for good radio. By the way, Blair, we have to break for a commercial. When we come back, we're going to talk about your book. So, Mert, we got to talk about her book. Okay? Have no fear. Blair Glaser will be joining us. Her book, This Incredible Longing, will be available at Amazon and other booksellers starting in mid-February. More about Blair and her work, visit her website, blairglaser.com. That's GLASER.com. Mert, Alex, Blair, and I hope you stay tuned. Stay with us. Blair Glaser is about to pull back the curtain on what it really takes to navigate chaos with clarity.
Hey, it's Mike Gallagher. I want to personally invite you to join me along with the great Scott Jennings for a powerful week on the Gulf of America cruise, November 14th through the 21st, 2026. We'll cruise through crystal blue waters, visit incredible ports like Half Moon Cay and Cozumel, and enjoy the first-class hospitality of a luxurious cruise ship. All week long, you'll have time to meet with us. The meet and greets, the photo ops, the Q&A sessions, and the chance to hear behind-the-scenes stories you'll never hear on air. You'll also be immersed in inspiring keynotes and in-depth sessions as we enjoy real connection designed to strengthen your resolve as we mark the 250th anniversary of our great nation. Don't miss this. Sign up today. We look forward to cruising the Caribbean with like-minded patriots who care deeply about our country. Reserve your stateroom now. Text the keyword cruise to 94878. Just text the word cruise to 94878 or visit MikeOnline.com. That's MikeOnline.com. Click on the Gulf of America cruise banner and we'll see you there.
The fight against sexual exploitation begins at home. Sexual exploitation is no longer a distant issue. It's happening here in our communities, schools, and even our homes. Every day, millions of Americans are targeted and trapped through manipulation, coercion, and deception. Sexploited in America, The Invisible War is a powerful docuseries exposing the hidden systems and cultural blind spots that allow exploitation to thrive, and gives a voice to the survivors and families forever changed by it. Raw, unfiltered, deeply human, these stories reveal both the devastating realities of exploitation and the extraordinary courage of those who refuse to be silenced. Sexploited in America, the docuseries is presented by AGA Media and available to everyone now at salemnow.com.
You're listening to AM 970, The Answer, your trusted conservative voice. Now, New York City has a new trusted conservative TV network, Salem News Channel, home to the brightest minds in conservative opinion. And you can watch Salem News Channel for free over the air with an antenna. Watch Salem News Channel on channel 45.7. Learn more at snc.tv. That's snc.tv.
Twitchy.com brings you the latest in social news, highlighting and reacting to important conversations from America's most prominent journalists, politicians, and celebrities. Twitchy's kinetic group of editors deliver fast and amusing content around the clock to tell you who said what in global and political news, sports, entertainment, and media. If it's news, they're on it. If it should be news, they're ahead of it. Stay connected to the newswire of the 21st century with Twitchy.com. Twitchy.com.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. We've been speaking with Blair Glaser. She's a leadership consultant, writer, and psychotherapist known for helping people navigate power, relationships, and organizational change with clarity and courage. She's also the author of This Incredible Longing, Finding Myself in a Near Cult Experience. I'm going to ask you about that, Blair, in just a second. Her book digs into the emotional undercurrents that shape our choices, our connections, and the way we move through the world. And she's here to help us make sense of it all. Her book will be available at Amazon and other major booksellers starting in a couple of weeks. So for more information on Blair and her book, visit her website, BlairGlaser.com. That's BlairGlaser.com. We'll also have links to Blair and her book on our website, ShakeItOffLive.com. So Blair, of course you knew I was going to ask you this question. How the heck did you end up in a near cult experience, and how did you get out of it?
Well, I was, in my college years, what is known as a seeker. I was very spiritually curious. I was raised Jewish, and I was brought to temple at a very early age, and it turned me off. I was bored. It wasn't like today where some religious programs have programming for kids, and I always had a big curiosity about God and the mystery, always. And it caught up with me in college when I left college, and I was very depressed, and I was back to what we talked about earlier, trying to be an actress in Los Angeles. And what I found in Los Angeles was not so much acting work, but a really lovely spiritual community, which turned out to be a high control group with a very powerful guru. Now, the reason why the subtitle to my book is called Finding Myself in a Near Cult Experience is because it actually turns out to be quite a good experience for me, even though there was a lot of crazy stuff and a lot of abuse going on around me. But I tended to get a lot of good stuff out of it, like discipline and being able to self-reflect in a deeper way, being able to meditate. And so those things worked for me, but I eventually began to see a lot of the things that weren't working, like the groupthink. Everyone was parroting the same thing. The leader would tell people what to do, even big things like get married, and I didn't think those marriages looked so healthy. There was a hush-hush thing about, like, the guru had another guru, but then that guru wasn't around anymore. Turns out the New Yorker did a big expose on what actually happened there. And so I began to see these things and realize there's some stuff going on here that's not kosher. And but mostly I left, I'm going to be really honest, because I had gotten what I had come for, and it was my time to leave.
Were you disappointed?
I was disappointed, yes. Yeah. It's really hard when you idealize somebody and you realize they're human. And I think that happens to all of us, even just from falling in love. You know, I call my experience there like a spiritual romance, because the beginning was such a high, and it was so great to be able to practice spiritual things with other people and feel a deeper sense of connection and meaning. And that was revolutionary for me at that time in my life. And so I thought this person was a realized being, and that meant that they had no flaws. Turns out, all humans do.
Now, your book explores longing, connection, emotional truth. How do you define longing in a way that's useful rather than overwhelming?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think that longing is, for me, it's like something that you can't lodge from your soul. In the book, I called it the nameless ache. It was just a feeling of wanting that I had for a long time. It wasn't attached to a specific thing. And I didn't know how to talk about it. And when I heard it reflected back to me that there is such a thing as spiritual longing, that longing for connection with spirit or God or your deeper self, however you talk about it, that really opened me up to being able to satisfy it. But for much of my life, it was just a deep sense of discomfort within myself. And therapy wasn't quite touching it. So for me, being able to find a spiritual community was very helpful in that regard. But longing has many different flavors. I have a friend that it's coming out with a great book called When Longing Becomes Your Lover, about her journey with sort of wanting men, but never really finding available ones. And that's another flavor of longing that I think is interesting to, a lot of people feel, let's put it that way, and interesting to explore. But my book is really about that soul longing. Yeah, go ahead.
So physical versus metaphysical, and you're more metaphysical, is that it?
I think so. That's a good way of putting it, sure.
Yeah, because a lot of people are carnal. I got you. Who did you write this book for? And who surprised you as connecting with it? Has anyone surprised you or yet? I know the book is
available. It is available for pre-order now, and people are coming out of the woodwork who have gotten advanced reader copies. And one of the things that makes me so happy that people are saying is that they really appreciate the fact that I bring nuance to the conversation of spiritual seeking. The story tends to be that you get involved in one of these things and you find yourself in this horrible cult and you have to dig your way out. And I don't condemn the organization. I'm grateful to it for providing me with a lot of really good emotional and mental and spiritual tools that I still use today. And I can also look at it and say, really gross things going on over there. But who I wrote the book for? I wrote the book, honestly, for people in their 20s. I think that people in their 50s are reading it and really relating to it. But people in their 20s who are in an identity search, who don't quite know who they're going to be, this book, I think, will really speak to that phase of insecurity and difficulty finding your footing and not having power in society and what that feels like. So I hope that some people who are in that coming of age bracket read this book and get out of it what I would have wanted someone to write for me.
Now, I know Mert wants to ask you a follow-up, but before he does, what's one idea in the book that people tend to resist at first, but later tell you changed everything?
All right, I'm going to be really honest. I haven't heard that yet. Can I get back to you? Can I take an MOU on that? Yeah.
I know, because that's not a fair question, because the book isn't officially released yet. But that shifted their perspective, anything that opened their eyes. How about if I change that?
Yeah, well, what I am seeing from a lot of people is one person who got an early copy, who I don't know, actually went to Goodreads to write a review and said, I was surprised to be taken somewhere new, and I really enjoyed the insights. So, that's general. It's not that one thing that you were looking for, but I do think that there's an element of you haven't quite heard this story before, unless you know someone that has gone through it. But, it's not the story of I got sucked into a cult and I got abused and I crawled my way out. It's a little bit different.
And much more nuanced. Go ahead, Mert. Did you have a follow-up comment?
Well, yeah, it's not a follow-up. I'm going a little bit of a different direction. I would be curious, what do you think the future looks like for relationships in terms of what is the new wave of man and woman look like in America and worldwide? What is your idealistic view?
Humor. You said that conversations are for people that have the ability to, have the intellect to have them. And I want to say that I just think that to your point, what you said earlier, in a household where both people have to do everything, they still have to have conversations. They still have to understand who's going to do what area one person might be more responsible for than the other. So I just talked to you about my relationship. I'm in a heterosexual relationship. I've been married for 7 years, and my husband is very handy, and I am not. And so we both understand that he's going to be doing those things and making phone calls about those things. Now, when he's super, super busy and he can't, he might say, do you have time to take care of this plumber call? Because I don't have it this week. And I can say yes, and we can have that conversation. And I don't really think that it takes a deep psychological understanding to be able to divvy up areas of responsibility in that way. And I think that we're going to have to learn how to do it.
Now, let me ask you about this as well. Do you think it's easy to have these kind of conversations with somebody you get that feeling you spoke about earlier where it's just like, wow, this person's amazing? Because usually what I find is the more you like somebody, the more you're willing to forgive, personality flaws and all that stuff. So with immense attraction, doesn't some vulnerabilities to a relationship occur with that?
Only totally. You cannot be in a serious, intimate relationship without risk.
Right.
You just can't. You just can't.
Hey.
So, yeah.
Yes, finish your point. So, did you want to finish your point?
No, I'm going to let you take it over because that point has gone. It evaporated from my
What was the hardest chapter? We only have a few minutes. Believe it or not, we only have a few minutes left. What was the hardest chapter to write, and what made it challenging for you?
Thank you. Thank you for asking that. In sort of towards the beginning of the book, I do consider telling myself to be. I'm trying to think of a better way to say it, but that's really what it comes down to. I'm sitting there with pills, and I'm coaching myself to go get the vodka, and that's when I chanted this mantra that I remembered from a time I had visited the City Yoga Center. So that chapter and walking the reader through the depression in my heart was the toughest to write.
Wow. I can't wait. I can't wait till your book comes out. Any last words? We only have seconds left. Did you want to leave what that you would like to leave our listeners with?
Yeah, I would. I would say that if you are feeling that discomfort and you haven't been able to name it, pick up a copy of the book and see if you find yourself in it. And what I want to say to you both is that I love talking relationship with you, and I would love to continue it. I don't know.
You know what? Possible, you know what? I definitely want you to come back because
oh my goodness,
you did something that connection. You did something very important, and you actually had your own perspective. You weren't just trying to agree with me because I'm the host. So I really appreciated you for giving how you really felt about it, because I like to get people's honest feelings, because just because I feel a certain way don't mean other people out there agree with me. So they might want to hear your perspective. So that was very important and very good. So I definitely want you to come back because you're very good at talking about relationships. And I think there's a lot more we can go into this in the future.
I think so too. Can I just say really quickly, I know you're cut for time, but the reason I wrote this book was because I had tried to write a relationship book, and the agents that they weren't having it. They wanted me to write a book that was like 12 great ways to be in the best relationship ever. And I wanted to write the relationship book that we ended up talking about. So I hope to be back. Thank you for having me on. It was such a pleasure.
We've run out of time, and you will be back. Blair's book, This Incredible Longing, Finding Myself in a Near Cult Experience, will be available at Amazon and other major booksellers in a couple of weeks, mid-February. For more about Blair and her work, visit her website, BlairGlaser.com. We'll post links to Blair and her book on our website. Check it off live. Thanks for coming on the program, Blair. Next up,
take care.
Zach Zefka, co-founder and CEO of CarEdge, the consumer advocacy platform reshaping how Americans buy, sell, and negotiate cars. So it's imperative that you come back after the news at the top of the hour, suffer through a few commercial messages, but one that's said all done. Mert, Alex, Zach, all of us at AM 970 will be right here waiting for you. We know you want it, so please come back for hour 2 of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas Live. A lot more controversy awaits. Stretch if you must, but stay right here. The truth about car buying is coming up next.
The preceding hour of programming, sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
For over 30 years, Point of Grace has shared music, faith, and friendship with listeners across the country. Now Denise, Lee, and Shelley are inviting you into their circle. Welcome to Circle of Friends, the podcast.
It's Point of Grace.
Each week they're talking real life, current events, stories of true friendship, wisdom from God's Word, and all their favorite things. If you're looking for a little company, a few laughs, and a lot of Jesus to hold it together, Circle of Friends, the podcast is waiting for you. Subscribe now wherever you listen or watch podcasts, and circle up with Point of Grace.